On the footpath lay a small bundle of red-brown fur. A man looked around in surprise. It was a busy street in the city, filled with people taking pictures of the beautiful buildings. Everything seemed normal, except for the tiny fluffy creature that was awake in the middle of the path. Unlike people, dogs noticed it. One dog was pulling its owner closer, drooling with excitement, clearly wanting to eat the little animal. The man rushed over. Whether it was a small rat or a kitten, it didn't deserve to be eaten by a big slobbering dog that its owners hadn't trained. The owners didn't pay attention to their dog. They pulled the leash but let it go a little each time the dog got close to the trembling creature. However, the man was quicker. He stepped in front of the dog, blocking its way. The dog growled in annoyance. The owners finally noticed their pet but were confused, thinking the dog was growling at the man. They tightened the leash again and pulled the dog away. The dog looked back sadly but followed its owners. The reluctant protector near the tiny being knelt and extended a hand. The creature recoiled at the touch, coiling up and rendering its identification more difficult. The gentleman delicately hoisted the light body onto his palm. Upon closer examination, it was found to be a baby squirrel. It was mystifying how it had ended up in the city's heart. The nearest green space where squirrels were known to frolic was quite a distance from the historical city center. Nonetheless, the gentleman held the unfortunate little being in his hand, and something had to be done. Not pondering much, he made his way to the nearest animal clinic. Upon discovering the baby, the medical staff gathered around, chiding the intervening gentleman. "Why did you move the newborn squirrel from its location? Its mother would have returned for it, if not right away, then perhaps in half an hour or a full hour. Now its survival could become arduous. You're showing a lack of responsibility towards nature. Take the baby back now, you shouldn't do this," the assertive voice echoed. The rescuer attempted to object. "Your role is to shield the baby from dogs, cats, and crows. Stand by and anticipate the mom squirrel's arrival. Keep any predators away." Who was the next one? A burly woman with a wailing cat in her arms instantly shoved a man out of the way. The team at the clinic became unfocused, with the original visitor gathering around the cat instead. Now quite annoyed, the dismissed man had no choice but to seek another clinic. At the new clinic, the man began by narrating the circumstances and location where he discovered the baby animal. The vet gently picked up the baby creature, tugged its skin subtly, and scrutinized it. The medical professional released the man, thankful that he had rescued the little one, and began taking care of the pint-sized being. The baby creature's fur seemed to clump under the touch and did not return to its smooth texture. The only logical conclusion was acute dehydration. Rehydration via syringe was the immediate step taken by the vet. The baby animal's body temperature was observed to be below normal limits. It was dangerously close to being fatally chilled. The tiny creature was just starting to open its eyes, which inferred it was around 10 days old, but its weight was alarmingly less than usual. Furthermore, sparse fur was riddled with fleas. These pests were taking shelter in the thin skin and thriving at its expense. Dealing with these parasites was the vet's top priority to prevent further harm to the baby. The newborn was meticulously cleaned, dried, and wrapped in heated towels to maintain its temperature. Elements of glucose were administered to keep its vitality intact. The crucial initial 24 hours would decide its fate. Either it would struggle and thrive or just be a memory. Reviving the drained baby and feeding it every 3 hours was a necessity. The absence of goat milk formula and cow's milk would mean a stoppage of its digestive system. Nothing would help in such a situation. Procuring goat's milk presented challenges. Hence, a nutritional blend used for feeding kittens was an adequate substitute. The baby had its first 2 meals at the clinic. It appeared to still be traumatized, shivering despite the increase in body temperature. Its minute claws were tightly gripping the fabric. The tiny creature instinctively understood it was not in its familiar surroundings with its mother, and it was noticeably anxious at every sound. It wiggled and cringed when picked up but quietly consumed all that the syringe had to give. Then the veterinary doctor's shift concluded. The vet's clinic was small, private, and only functioned during daytime hours. Leaving the baby animal all by itself throughout the night was out of the question, so the doctor took the little one home. At the man's house, there were already 2 cats, a parrot, and a dog, and they did not welcome the new baby squirrel. To keep the tiny creature safe, the pets were gently removed from the bedroom. The baby squirrel, wrapped in a towel, settled into a small box. The vet spent the evening looking for a permanent home where the squirrel would receive proper care, as leaving it in the apartment could be dangerous. The older pets were curious but cautious. The nearby zoo refused to take the squirrel, and the vet wouldn't send it to a petting zoo, fearing it would suffer from stress and harassment. After a long online search, the vet found a couple on social media who had spare enclosures for nurturing injured wild animals like fox kits, hawks, hedgehogs, and squirrels. They cared for these animals and released them back into the wild, sharing heartwarming rescue stories on their profile. They had saved a baby crow, nursed a swan with a hurt wing, and helped a fox with an injured paw, but they also faced losses, like a young deer and a starling. Understanding that not all animals can be saved, the vet decided to entrust the baby squirrel to these dedicated volunteers. The couple, Misha and Anna, arrived the next day, reassuring him that they knew squirrel care techniques. They went home with a substantial supply of kitten formula. On the first day, the baby was quarantined in a separate box. Anna adhered to an hourly feeding schedule for the little one named Crow, added the prescribed glucose, and monitored its temperature. In just a day, the baby squirrel adjusted to its new surroundings. No longer did it tremble or flinch at the sound of human voices. Instead, it began to curiously observe its surroundings from within its temporary home. The couple decided to introduce a new baby squirrel to their home, where they had a large enclosure with cozy spots and toys. 2 other rescued baby squirrels already lived there, each with their own story. One squirrel had fallen from its nest during a mushroom foraging trip, and its finders, inspired by fun videos online, took it home as a pet. However, the squirrel refused to eat the food provided, leading to a rapid decline in its health. Concerned that their children would be upset if the squirrel died, the adults placed it under a tree, where it was soon found by caring pedestrians and given to Misha. A second baby squirrel was found on the ground in a park, with its deceased mother nearby. It was suspected that the mother squirrel had consumed poison seeds left by rats near a cafe. The young squirrel was left by itself, and survival seemed unlikely. Misha and Anna took it upon themselves to nurse this little squirrel back to health, along with the other one. An adult squirrel with an injury on its hind leg also took residence in the enclosure, though it preferred its solitude, eating separately and interacting minimally with the youngsters. Soon, it would be reintroduced to its natural habitat. The enclosure's inhabitants welcomed the newest addition with warmth. The adult squirrel dismissed its presence, while the 2 other youngsters inspected their new playmate with curiosity and intrigue. Over the following weeks, the couple's normal restful nights became a distant memory. They nurtured the little ones day in and day out, alternating the task of mixing the feed and dispensing it via feeding tube. As they diligently cared for them, the small squirrels grew steadily healthier and larger. Before they knew it, the time came for the furry creatures to be independent, left to explore the enclosure on their own. The adult gray squirrel took the cue and joyfully darted off into the adjacent woodland. The young squirrels were full of energy, spending their days running around on branches and ropes, checking out pine cones brought by their caregivers, and then resting on their tummies. They played by rolling onto their backs and reaching out with their paws, chattering when a cage mate nibbled at them. Over time, they needed less of the special food. At first, they were given snacks like crackers, wheat, dried corn, and seeds. After a week, they got fresh fruits and nuts. The eager little squirrels tried everything, fighting over the tastiest bits and chattering happily as they enjoyed the juicy fruits. As they grew up, their meals were hidden to encourage them to search for food like they would in the wild. They learned to find corn, shell nuts, and dig for seeds in piles of leaves. When they were good at these tasks, it was time for the next step. The humans decided to return them to their natural home. On a warm, sunny day, the young squirrels were placed in a small transport cage and taken to a lush forest. A big tree marked the drop-off point. When the cage door opened, the curious squirrels peeked out but didn't rush out. A trail of acorns and sunflower seeds encouraged them to leave the cage. The sudden freedom was both scary and exciting as they adjusted to all the new smells around them. Despite their hesitation, one by one, they found the courage to climb out and disappeared into the green trees. Their past may have been sad, but these lively creatures survived, thanks to the caring people who helped them. Their journey from helpless babies to independent young squirrels shows the strength of wildlife.